Todd and Rob in the afternoon.
Afternoon delight.
With Todd and Rob. Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah, and here we are. Hope you had a good Turkey Day last week, Rob.
I did, Todd. I hope you did as well.
Well, Thanksgiving in the Philippines is you go to a restaurant, you pay a flat fee, and you do not get a second plate.
That's the fun of Thanksgiving, is to get that second plate, right? Yeah.
Or third, or the dessert.
And then multiple slices of pie and all that
Right.
stuff. Right.
So, I had researched it, and I thought I was going to a buffet. No, it was not a buffet, and
Okay.
I was left wanting. About 3 hours later, my stomach said, "Man, I could use some more turkey and stuffing." And it was really good. No complaints from that standpoint, but I definitely could have used a little more volume.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. There's something magic about seconds. It just
absolutely
comforting.
is. But otherwise, it was nice, and nice to have a little bit of a break. That was all well and good as well.
Mhm.
So, but yeah, here we are, and the controversy.
All sorts of them, actually. Yeah.
Well, it's okay. So for the podcasting 2.0 crowd, we are live and lit, but I do want to make one mention before we get too deep into this. I stopped doing the video restream, and here's why. It was costing me $90 a month to do just the HLS portion because
Wow.
I'm using restream.io. They don't have an HLS output, and I've got the audio stream running. That's easy. It costs virtually nothing. And so I just was doing the math, and I'm just like, yeah, this isn't probably the best, the best use of resources. So
Right.
if you want to watch the video portion of the show, you come over to either YouTube or Facebook or X or Rumble, because we're on all those platforms, and you can watch the show live
Oh,
there.
we're over on Rumble now. That's awesome.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. We've been over there for a while. So
Yeah.
my Facebook or even Rob's YouTube channel. So there's plenty of places to watch the video live. But I just couldn't justify it. Ongoing. You figured it's $1,000 a year.
Yeah. So how were you doing the HLS stream on this show?
I was sending a stream to cloud.wowza, and they created a stream. So it's $50 and then per hour of live streaming. So I decided to recover that cost. And so for the podcasting 2.0 crowd, we're live and lit on audio only. And but a few days ago, and it's kind of ironic that you picked it up, but a whole different genre of the topic.
Mhm.
I'm going to read a statement that was made by Dave Weiner. And for
And
those
just
of
to
you
give context to who Dave Weiner is, he's the inventor of the RSS feed of sorts. And so he's the brainchild behind that. Yeah.
He says, I wasn't clear enough yesterday. We're losing the word podcast very quickly. It's becoming to mean video interviews on YouTube. Our only hope is upgrading the open platform in a way that simulates the imagination of creators, and there's no time to waste. And I replied to Dave. I said, Dave, have you not been following what we're doing with Podcasting 2.0? I hope you review the expansion. We've been ahead of this for a while now and understand the threat. And of course, Dave did not respond to that.
Of course
and
not. Yeah.
he will not. He will not acknowledge the work that's being done.
Right.
And he is, Dave, I'm sorry, but kiss my ass because we've been working hard. A whole bunch of people have been working hard at expanding RSS and making things better. Where
Yeah.
have you been? Where have you been?
Yeah.
So and don't take it the wrong way. I appreciate your contributions for what you did in podcasting in the beginning, but cry me a river at this point
Well, and
because
Dave keeps talking about the same stuff that he built originally for podcasting 20 years ago.
and
So
he didn't want to. He didn't
where's the
want,
innovation? Where's the
and he
innovation?
didn't want to expand RSS. As a matter of fact, I think
Right.
he even poo-pooed
Yeah.
some of the stuff that's been going on.
Yeah.
And eh, and I don't say that lightly because we've worked hard at this and trying to expand RSS, make people understand the reason,
Mhm.
to add lots of great, cool features. And there's plenty of opportunity by all the existing podcast apps out there to protect the kingdom here. Now, we don't need to get into argument of the word podcast. We know that ship has sailed. We know that people, they see an interview wherever it may be,
The
YouTube,
podcast is
Rumble,
probably
it's
is. Yeah, it could be. Right.
they they call it a podcast.
Right.
And I understand, we understand what's at stake here. I do. I'm a hosting company. But I'm also trying to pivot, and bring stuff to market that serves both. So
Yeah, Todd, I agree with you. I think it's a difficult topic from the standpoint that do we want this is really hard to say because do we want to keep living somewhat in the past here or do we want to live in the future and do we want to see what's happening and not necessarily accept it but recognize it
well, I
and
think everyone has
right.
recognized it. I
I
don't
don't
think
I don't
anyone
know,
has
Todd.
not recognized it.
I don't hear a consistent um, discussion on this whole topic, and I think it's because everybody has a different perspective on it.
I think
Right.
it's an agenda too.
Well, that's part of it. But this whole thing of embracing RSS and extending RSS, in some ways that's the more difficult hill to climb, is to innovate on top of RSS versus embracing what we have.
But the problem is what we have works.
It does,
Here's
and
the thing.
that's my whole point is that we keep talking about, and this really stems from the a few years ago, the discussion that was coming out of Spotify. A lot of this stuff is coming out of Spotify, and then
Yeah.
more recently, the narrative that's coming out of YouTube. But I think a lot of this kind of reflection and projection and stuff is coming out of the rhetoric that's coming out of Spotify, and it's got everybody rattled about what's going on here. And I think,
Well,
yeah, go
again,
ahead, Todd.
it's advertising driven.
Yeah,
So
it's all motivated by
it-
a business interest of a proprietary platform, right?
if we just relax a little
Right.
bit, and it's even even in the prep we've done for this show,
Mhm.
the head of Spotify podcasting is not embracing video, and he's leaving.
Yeah,
You
Yeah.
know,
that was interesting. Yeah,
so okay, there's two sides to every story, and in the end, it's very, very simple for creators at this point.
yeah,
You can have both. No one has ever said you can't have both. But I think there's a correct strategy to having both.
Mhm.
Being number one, have your open podcast distribution where you want your content to be.
Yeah, right.
None of that's going to change. Apple's not changing. Spotify's still ingesting via RSS.
Mhm.
YouTube's doing whatever YouTube's doing. I would
Yeah.
not submit to YouTube via RSS.
Yeah, I haven't
I
done it with any of my shows. I haven't
I
done it.
wouldn't. So
Mhm.
here's the kicker. You've got open RSS and podcasting. Nothing is changing. We're improving it. Get on board. Help us improve through these new podcasting apps at podcastapps.com. Support that movement. Train our listeners. And then if you're going to add video, if you're going to have a video component, sure, have a YouTube channel. No
Yeah.
problem.
Yeah, there's no
And
issue with that, really.
and if you want to be on Spotify with video, have a second show.
Yeah, and maybe
Be-
think twice about doing it on Spotify because I'm not sure that they got it right.
Well, I would
Yeah.
have an RSS listing submitted.
Yeah.
If I was hardcore and wanting to do this, then I would have a Spotify podcast account and do video
Just the video
separately.
through that. The problem is that I believe what they're doing when you do that is they're actually splitting the audio out.
But no. But you can have two listings.
One is video and one's audio. Is that what you're saying?
Right. Have a second show.
But
Use
what are
submit
they
to
doing with the video when you upload? Are they creating a duplicate audio version?
The only time you have a video and audio version is when you host completely on Spotify. You have one listing. So
We
you
can't-
have your podcast, your audio podcast
Right.
with Libsyn, Blueberry, Podbean, whoever. You submit that way, and then you create another account and have video only.
Yeah, but that is publishing directly to
Right,
Spotify.
they have to publish directly to Spotify. And then you
My
get it
question
all.
is, are they splitting that video publish up into audio and video?
It's two different listings. You're just like on Apple Podcasts, you'll have a video podcast and you have an audio podcast. Except the other one is coming in via manual submission, not via an RSS feed. And you're done. You've got everything.
Yeah, because I thought they were wanting creators to come in and upload the video to replace the audio.
No. But they're not going to do it from my feed.
Well, you're not going to do it, but I'm just saying is that's what
They
they're encouraging
can't do that.
creators.
They can't do that. They have to move off me to have an audio and video on one.
I thought that you could overwrite your
not
audio
your
episodes.
Nope, not unless you are a Spotify podcaster, and you have to submit manually to both.
Okay, all right. I'm gonna have to get in and kind of play with it
Because
just to make sure.
I can't go into Spotify podcaster and overwrite my RSS feed from Blueberry. The audio submission, I have to move to them to do that.
Well, that's what the discussion was a few months ago.
That's their strategy.
That's what they were enabling, were people to get in and replace their audio with video.
If you have a Spotify for Podcaster account.
Oh, okay. Well, that's something different than a pass-through feed into Spotify then. Yeah.
But the thing is, you can have two listings over there. It happens all the time. Anyway.
Yeah. Two listings, one audio and one video.
Well,
not two audio and one.
Sometimes people end up with two audios.
Well, that's the crux of my question is.
Well, what ends up happening is, let's say someone's on Libsyn and they move to Blueberry.
Right.
For us to get those shows joined is very difficult. And sometimes if it's
Spotify's made such a freaking mess.
Oh,
here.
it's just a mess. But anyway, you can have the best of both worlds. Just don't screw up your audio.
Yeah.
And it's all about a drive for dollars. So people need to chill out.
Yeah, but why would the guy that's in charge of podcast monetization not support their efforts here? Does he know something, and that could be why he's leaving?
No, we had a conversation with someone at Podcast Movement about this.
Yeah.
And they don't want to do it for a reason. build your audience wherever the hell you want. And then, I all I know is that I understand the value
Hmm.
of, and another thing, Tom, love you to death. But I'm still going to continue to, I don't have him in the roadcaster here. I'm going to still continue to build my brand on my.com. I'm not going to, I'm going to make sure that I have a point of presence for my website and for my show that is not on rented land. Because Thomas basically saying rented land looks awful good. And I'm thinking, okay, yeah, YouTube is this shiny object out there, the little dangly thing, of course. It looks good to people out there. Of course. It's the new shiny object. But again, about 90% of podcasters could give two shits about video.
Yeah.
We don't see it. And we're looking, believe me, we're looking. And
Yeah.
the shows that are on YouTube, very, very small percentage of them have success. So again, we're talking about some that have huge success, making lots of money.
Yeah.
And then you have everyone else.
And those shows are really playing the YouTube game.
Yeah,
Right?
they're
I
playing.
mean, it
the
is
YouTube
a game that caters to the algorithm.
Sure.
And that's what they're doing over there. I mean, I've been really kind of trying to study it and understand it myself. And there's a mixed signal that's coming out of YouTube about success on YouTube. There was a big rumor that was flying around in the YouTube space around the new interest that YouTube has in supporting small creators, new channels of sorts, and driving attention to those new channels, and giving these smaller channels, new channels, some hope, right? That they can grow fast because YouTube really loves those new channels, right? They're going to feature them and promote them, and
Mm-hmm.
which is what everybody wants, right? Is everybody wants to
I
be
don't.
able
I don't.
to.
I don't see that on anything I'm watching.
Well, I think that there is some evidence that they will audience map some new shows. There's probably an emphasis on that because what they want to stimulate is the interest in new creators creating new channels and
I don't.
bringing
I don't.
in new
It's
people
it's
to the
still it's
platform.
still it's
Right.
still it's still 0.00. It's such a low percentage of
Yeah, but
people.
that's what what I'm trying to say is that YouTube has an agenda, right? And their
Yeah.
agenda is to drive new creators there, and that's exactly what they're doing with podcasting, right? They're driving creators from the audio podcasting space into video and encouraging them and putting out these signals that we will support you and we will feature you and we will
Well,
promote you.
signals equal
And
success is
well,
two different things.
and that's the much bigger question around it. Is this just a game that YouTube is
It's a
playing,
game.
right?
Yeah.
To garner new content to their platform, which is an advertising centric
Yeah.
platform. And the other uber trend here that we need to back up and look at is that the platforms that are pushing all these things are platforms that are very advertising focused and
Yep.
centric platforms.
Yep.
One of the reasons that we're not seeing Apple have a big play here is because they are not an advertising platform.
Right.
They failed in advertising years ago and they never jumped back into it again. And so unless they take on this advertising issue that Spotify and YouTube have chosen to take it on, probably Apple's not going to invest heavily into growing what they're doing in Apple Podcasts. I guess what we'll see is what's next for them around support for video. But the problem is that the early signs of what we're seeing even at Spotify is that even the video monetization is actually doesn't look like it's been worked out, right? And that people have faith in it that it's going to work.
I just,
Yeah.
there is such I mean, it's like spooning. Yeah, people are drooling all over themselves and here's the thing. I see creators that are, let's just be frank. If you want to do video, do video. We've been doing video here for years.
Yeah, I don't think.
And
Yeah, I agree with that. I mean, if you want to be a creator that is creating audio and video or taking the audio from the video, there's pathways to do that. Now, Spotify has really kind of messed that up, in my opinion. It's pretty clear in YouTube how to do it, but Spotify is still kind of like we've talked about here is still kind of a mess.
it's
I don't
but
feel
it's
confident in doing anything over there right now.
but I think, that what has been ignored is the simple fact that we're not we're still fine.
Yeah.
You know?
Well, it's these expectations about where the trends in the industry are going. Where's the industry going? Where's it shifting to? Where do the younger people in the medium
Yeah.
want the medium to go towards? What their interests are, which may be different than maybe the earlier podcasters that were in this medium that really saw a focus on audio versus this younger generation that sees so much sizzle and scale and excitement from like Mr. Beast and all these big video podcasters or video creators. And they want to get a part of that. So everybody's kind of, plus, I was thinking about this the other day, Todd, is that I think one of the other big things that shifted here is the mentality of the podcaster or the creator themselves of putting monetization first, right? It's almost like people are not going to create a new show unless they have been trained on how to make money from that show from day one,
Yeah.
right?
That's a big
And
part of it too.
and then that second question is, well, how do I market it? The third question is what content I make. So
Yeah.
that puts people, it's kind of like putting the cart before the horse, right?
Yep.
Let's think about, and Dave Jackson is huge on this too. He's out there, you got to really think about the content, you got to plan it, you got to do all that as the first thing. But people are not focused on that because of what we're seeing on social media and these other platforms where there's all these, consultants and people build your business and this is how to make $1 million in a year or $10,000 a month.
And paying
Right.
$9.99 to do that and all that BS.
Right. So it gets people in the mindset that, oh, I can start a podcast and quit my job, and which podcasters have wanted to do for 20 years
Since
here.
the beginning.
Right. It's nothing new. It's just that now we're putting the cart before the horse, where in the early days, we were actually building content and building scale and building audiences the first thing you think about.
Yeah, and I go back and I've been poo-pooed over the years.
Yeah.
About this ability to make sure that you control your brand and build your own .com or whatever .show or whatever domain
Yeah.
you want to use.
Yeah.
And for years, people are like, oh, Todd, you don't need to do that. Yet time and time again, I'm vindicated.
Yeah.
Every week, I have shows that come crying to us that they've been deplatformed for just the most stupidest things. Sometimes no reason given, just a channel shut down. So I always tell people, if you're going to be over there, have a backup plan. Again, people say, oh, it's never going to happen to me until it does.
Yeah.
And it's not a fear tactic. It's just fact. And what percentage? I don't know. I don't know what the percentage of channels are shut down.
Yeah.
Or deplatformed or deprioritized. But the way podcasters get pretty spicy at times. We've been able to be as spicy as we want on audio, and not have to worry, about someone pulling the plug on us.
Yeah.
Or setting a community standard strike against us. It came up in a conversation that we had with a podcaster who asked, is Blueberry a free speech platform? And yes, we are.
Question. That's an interesting question.
Interesting question, right?
Yeah.
And yes, we are a free speech platform.
Well, podcasting has been historically more of a free speech platform.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hey, Brian, thanks for saying hello. He said, "Hey guys, glad to catch up. Glad to have you here.
Hey,
Thank you so
Brian.
much."
Yeah.
Um, we're gonna get blasted by certain shows because we keep talking about this, but it's just part of the medium now. But going back to the Dave Weiner discussion,
Yeah.
We have the ability to change things. We have the ability to improve the experience for listeners. In the end, this is what this is about. We have to improve the experience for the listeners. Make it a more enjoyable, interactive experience. One thing that we essentially, and we have a little bit of work to be done in this. We essentially invented Super Chat for podcasting with Boost, and going through a little bit of a transition right now because of some changes to wallet holdings, but it's still working. People can still boost a show, and matter of fact, this show got some sats recently, and so people are streaming the show, and so you and I are benefiting from the from that support of listeners who are basically using these new modern podcast apps. So it's not as slick, but we need some time to make it more slick so that people can more easily participate. Lucas says, "True, always have a backup." And he says, "Also download your XML and all audio files to backup." I think the key here is you don't really have to download your XML if you own your own .com and you have your podcast on your website. Your XML is controlled and owned by you. And as long as you pay your hosting bill, you're good.
Well, I would say it might be helpful to save a copy of your RSS feed just so you capture all your metadata that you use. So if you ever want to duplicate it in the future, it'd be easier to do it. You could do it actually.
Yeah. But to me, it's like this causes this commentary, valid as it is. And I'm not saying it's an invalid discussion. I'm just saying, do what you got to do. And that's the best thing about podcasting is there's no rules. And if you choose to chase the YouTube agenda, great. Go chase the YouTube agenda. But you're going to have a YouTube strategy.
Right. And that's the only way that you're ever going to find success on YouTube is if you get serious about it and take those strategies to heart when you publish content up there. And it's not easy to do. I mean, it's not an easy thing to do. If you look at a lot of the big successful YouTube channels, they have huge teams behind what they do. And they test and they test. And, like even in YouTube today, you can create 3 different versions of your thumbnail, and YouTube will actually test each one of those thumbnails for you to figure out which one works best and actually use the best one for you.
There's no reason why we couldn't do that here. We've got the ability to set episode art. It could be up to the app developers to test. Yeah. They could do the same thing, but we're at the mercy of the app developers and their development time and their support and how much money they have behind them, which again goes into this full ecosystem that we've been trying to build in Podcasting 2.0, where if you send this show a boost, guess what? The app that you sent the boost from gets a cut to support themselves. The initiative to build podcasting gets a cut. And then we've set those splits based upon what we feel we should support. And then Rob and I get the rest. So, there's a mechanism here to have an ecosystem that will support. But again, it's edge at this point. We don't have a Podcasting 2.0 app that is at 2, 3, 4, 5%.
Right.
And that's what it's going to take. It's going to take a podcasting app to get us to 5%. But then again, if we think about it, in all honesty, we only need at maximum 10% of our audience to move to a new podcasting app that's supporting podcasting 2.0. The top 10%, they're the ones contributing to the shows. Those are the ones sending donations. Those are the ones that are subscribed to Patreon or PayPal or however you're getting the money. The rest of the 90% are not.
Mm-hmm.
If you get 10% conversion of your audience to donate to your show, you're a superstar.
Yeah.
So we don't have to convert everybody. We need to convert the top listeners to the new apps to support the shows, and the ecosystem works out.
Yeah.
And I think that's the thing that's also lost upon people. We don't need to move, 50% of people off Apple Podcasts. That's never going to happen. Never.
Though the listeners may be doing that all on their own at this point.
I don't know. Apple's still strong. It's, they have this major competitive advantage that will never change. They have a podcast app that is delivered on the iPhone by default. When you turn it on for the very first time, right there it is. So they're never going to have a complete. Their numbers are not going to drop dramatically. It's not going to happen. It's sure there's going to be a little bit of sharing going on between Spotify, Apple, and others, but they have.
Todd. The data I've seen has shown about a 20% drop in market share for Apple over the last year.
No, Rob, it's not 20%. It's not 20%. People, 6 or 7% is what people have seen. And some Apple's regained market share recently on some platforms.
No, I've seen stats from Buzzsprout and
Buzzsprout
Lipson that show a 20% reduction in Apple's.
Not over the last year.
Yeah.
No. Buzzsprout just had an increase in Apple Podcast share. Their last report showed an uptick. Regardless, they're not every. Do you really think that Apple is going to be insignificant in consumption?
I'm just thinking that the momentum that I see in the marketplace right now, it can be unfounded, it can be unreasonable, it can be wrong, it can be whatever. The momentum that I see in the marketplace is Apple is in a state of decline as the attention is being increasingly pointed towards video. And that's what the audiences, now this is all driven based on what audiences are doing. It's up to us as an industry to make sure that audio doesn't lose momentum here.
Yeah, I don't see that in our stats at all. And maybe it's because
Yeah, I think you have to look broadly across the whole industry. Where is the momentum right now? Where is the momentum in the perception of the audience around audio, or is the momentum around video and audio, right? Where the research that I'm seeing come out from all sorts of sources saying is increasingly audiences are looking for both, right? The option to consume video sometimes and the option to consume audio other times of their.
But again, don't fall for the narrative, Rob. Don't get sucked into the narrative, because remember, it's for a segment of shows.
Okay, Todd, it's not getting sucked into the narrative. It's what the public discussion that is happening around this medium that's happening, and people are seeing it, and people are reflecting it. I'm not saying that should be the strategy on a strategy towards an opposition to that. I'm just saying.
No, I'm not saying. I'm just saying though. But what is the narrative is saying is video, video, video. But guess what?
The narrative is coming from research that's being done in the market.
Okay, for people that are doing fucking advertising.
Well, those are the only people that are paying for the research.
People that care.
Okay, but there isn't anybody that's paying for research that doesn't have a revenue model objective, right?
Again, I think, what we have here is we have a monetization narrative that's been shoved down people's throats, like you said, monetization first.
Yeah.
I just
Well, and it caters to 10% of the market. So all of this conjecture and all this discussion and all this controversy and all this kind of stuff is all coming out of really the interests of 10% of podcasting. And
if 10%.
right,
Yeah.
and it's driving the strategies of the big platforms. It's driving the perception of the audience, and there is a factor here, Todd, of that YouTube as a video platform is the second largest place for people to find content
Oh,
online.
I have
Right.
no doubt about that.
Right.
But
So
again,
it's got an
who is
outsized power in the marketplace
but again, for
around
a
consumers of content.
okay, but for a very small percentage
From an
of
industry
shows.
perspective, right,
Right.
from an industry perspective. I'm
From a
talking about what
very
the
s
audience is
I
doing
know,
with their,
but but again, they're going
TikTok
to a
and
very small percentage of shows.
right. But that's a different conversation. I'm talking about what the consumption side of this is and where it's trending towards. And I'm concerned that the attention of the consumption side is pushing increasingly towards video.
Well,
And all
here's
the
the thing.
research and all the buzz and all the discussion from the big platforms is all centered around video. Whether it's
I
founded in real results is the big
I
question
think
around
what we'll
Spotify.
see over the next year is we're gonna figure out if people's video strategy has worked out.
Right.
After they invest a lot of money
Yeah. But
to do
clearly that's what's happening in the market. I'm seeing it all over the place, Todd. I'm surprised
but
that you're
again,
not seeing it too.
no, we don't hear podcasters are not talking to us about video.
Okay, I'm not necessarily talking specifically about podcasters. I'm talking about creators. There's been a big burst in interest in being a
Okay,
creator
then
now,
build
right?
build a YouTube channel then. Be done with it.
No, but that's taking a polarized view here.
No, it's not. That's what
Yes,
you're
it is,
saying.
Todd. It is taking a
Those people,
polarized view.
then there's a lot of top people on YouTube that say they're podcasters that don't have an audio podcast. So
Fair
guess
enough.
what? So
Fair
guess what?
fair enough. My narrative on this is that if you're a creator, you're thinking about all the ways to reach as many people as you can.
I don't think most of those people that are trying to be successful on YouTube have a care in the world about audio.
Well, I mean, you're making a blanket statement
No,
across
I think
lots and lots of people that do have audio podcasts, right?
Yeah, very high staffed, successful podcast. People that have huge budgets.
Mhm. Yeah. Yeah, I mean
So again, go look at go look at 500 shows. Take the Apple podcast list, the top 200 in each
okay, I'm
category.
not talking about performance here, Todd. I'm talking about perceptions.
I understand that.
Yeah.
But in the
and
end,
that's the part that's gonna take this whole thing down, is once the data comes out and it doesn't reflect what the rhetoric or the proclamations or the projections turn out to be. It's the same thing around advertising too. I'm hearing, people saying that the podcast advertising market's gonna grow, 12% this next year, but I
yeah,
also
good luck.
saw some research that came out today saying that it's projected to only go up less than 2%. So,
Yeah.
that's part of what we're talking about here is we're talking about inflated perceptions around what works and where the direction of the medium is going. And I do worry that if that gets too much adoption or acceptance, that will drive a significant change in the medium, whether or not it's warranted or not. So I don't know how we beat it back, Todd.
Oh, you don't
That's the
beat it
question.
back. You have to continue to innovate.
Yeah. Well, it's hard to stand out with a innovative audio approach right now in the cloud of excitement around visual. And I think that's the big challenge that podcasting has right now is it's not the new shiny thing.
So what will happen is the number of
Yeah.
the Edison report should reflect a drop in podcast listening by episode. Because who has time? Who has time to? I can listen to 5 times as much audio as I can watch video. And maybe people have different lifestyles than I do. You know,
Well,
I
I think audio fits into a certain segment of one's lifestyle where video fits into other. I mean, that's my own consumption pattern right now is that for certain, if I'm in my car, I'm listening. If I'm
Mhm.
in my living room, I'm watching, right? So that's my own personal consumption pattern. And
You
it's
said in your
not
car you're
one,
watching. You said in your car you're watching.
no, well, if I did, I misspoke. Um, uh,
Maybe I
when I'm
misheard
in
you.
my car, I'm listening. When I'm in my living room, I'm watching, right? Or
Yeah,
if I'm sitting in front of my computer, I'm typically watching.
yeah.
So I think the takeaway that I'm growing on here is that it's not necessarily either or, it's both, is where what the future looks like. The question gets back to is if you're a creator, which what kind of content plays to video in a way that's worth doing versus just doing it in audio. And I think increasingly as a creator, we have all these choices now. We can make vertical videos, shorts, we can make long form, short form, widescreen, we can make content for televisions, we can make content for Rumble and YouTube and all these different platforms. Content creators have so much on their plate, right? That they have to decide on and choose what direction they want to go and what resources do they have to bring to that to be able to do it all? Or are they going to have to focus on just doing audio because that's all they're really capable of doing? Um, that's the real, I feel that's the tension that we're increasingly seeing in the market is this expectation versus reality, right? And the reality takes all sorts of forms, like what kind of equipment you have, what's your ability, what's your willingness to have studio lights and have HD cameras and camcorders and spend thousands of dollars on equipment. And it's putting people in a situation where they feel like they're kind of binded up by so many choices. And it may cause people, and especially if they're going to get into it with a profit motivation or an income motivation to begin with, it creates this kind of potential of failure, right? Because
Oh,
people, right,
it's
have expectations
there's
beyond
always
reality, right?
yeah. Meanwhile, I don't know if you've been watching. I've been flashing the comments.
Yeah, I saw that. Yeah,
Felix, Leland, Lucas. Y'all been hot and heavy on the comments here. Said
yeah,
Lucas says people listen to podcasts in their car, walking their dog, running, and that's audio. You're
yeah,
not watching a video podcast while
right.
driving your car.
No,
Because we
you're
all know
not.
that.
Right, right.
Leland says, I've actually considered going back to pure audio. I'm closing the doors of video production for podcasting.
Well,
He
if it's
says
not working for you and you're not getting the results out of it, then yeah, I
Lucas
think that's
says
the right thing to
also
do.
big content creators, Spotify and Apple don't. So that may also be a reason to do video. Well, Spotify is paying big people,
Yep.
big. In other words, yeah, what is it, 5,000 hours a month or or 10,000 hours or some number.
Right.
People walking around with earbuds and Facebook goggles, but you might be surprised. Those people that walking around with earbuds might be listening to shorts, as Rob said.
Yeah.
Felix says, I agree with Todd. I executive produce an audio podcast with a pretty sizable budget and marketing dollars that was viewed over 5 million times this summer. I also placed it with an RSS feed and it was downloaded 1 million times.
Mm-hmm.
Leland says it's not so much from the host end, but the producer end for others. Okay. So, I again, to pick your poison.
Yeah.
I don't care what people do.
Yeah.
But if we get back to, the industry,
What's
the
that message that we're as an
industry,
industry that we're delivering to content creators?
the
Right.
industry could be at risk. And, and going back to the Dave Weiner discussion where he wants BlueSky
Yeah.
to, to have an RSS injection, they're more likely to follow the Twitter model and do some sort of live thing. They're not going to inject RSS. BlueSky will not do that.
Yeah,
And
I
of
don't
course,
think
he
they
hates
will
X
either. Yeah.
X. So,
Well, all these platforms are heading towards a model of
walled garden.
penalizing people for linking to other
Yeah.
platforms in their content posts on those
Yeah.
platforms.
Yeah.
And so if you even on X, if you post a
Yeah.
link to YouTube, your post isn't going to get the visibility than if you
Yeah.
uploaded it directly to X,
And
which I did last week for this show on my X account, and it got decent views. When I uploaded the full episode of this show up to that platform, and it was
well,
hosted up there. Yeah.
we stream to our X account
Yeah. Well,
this show.
Yep.
So, again, I'm against what he has done over there from that regard.
oh, you're talking
And
about X, or you talking about
well,
BlueSky?
yeah, and X, basically Elon said,
Yeah.
make your post and then put your link to your post in a reply. And I'm like, that's some bullshit. But that's the same thing
Yeah.
Facebook has done. So
Yeah.
they're taking the same playbook and trying to, they don't want you to leave.
They don't want
this
to
is
have you direct their users to other platforms.
right. And this is where podcasters need to wake the hell up.
Yeah.
And, control that narrative. Come to newmediashow.com. And we don't have a newsletter, but if we did, I could say add, sign up for a newsletter or,
Mhm.
buy our merch, all those things that can only be accomplished on your own website that is being prevented by other third parties.
Yeah, and
So,
I don't think that necessarily going live on X is necessarily a favored approach either. I think I see more plays if I upload a pre-recorded video up to that platform than I do on replay off of a live stream into that platform, which I don't know why they're penalizing live streams. I would think that's what they would want to incentivize, right? Is to have more live content up there.
and frankly, I don't need that many views on X. It's just it is what it is. I'm not going to take the time.
Yeah.
Because time is money. And most people don't have enough time as it is.
Well, and that's the bigger issue that I see brewing here is that all these platforms are wanting content creators to upload directly to them. And Spotify's heading that way. YouTube's already there mostly. And you see Instagram and Facebook and all those platforms incentivizing people to upload directly to their platforms. And Todd, can you imagine a world where there's maybe 10 platforms that are all standalone platforms that require content creators to upload directly to every single one of them every time they want to put a piece of content up? And that's the real threat to RSS-based podcasting.
Rob, that was the model in 2004.
Well, yeah, I mean, that wasn't really in an environment that had a lot of built-out social media platforms like we have today. And so what's at stake here really is how much time do you as a content creator have to get your content out to all these platforms? And what they're driving is a future where you only pick one or two,
Right.
to upload your content to. So like if we were doing this show and RSS wasn't available to us, we would have to choose between Apple and YouTube or whatever. And those are the only two platforms that we upload because that's all the time we have.
Oh, thank God we have RSS.
Yeah, and that's the power of RSS is to get it out to hundreds of listening consumption apps all at the same time. And it just saves a lot of time. And unfortunately, it feels like we're moving away from that. And I'm not real
Well,
happy
that's the
to see it.
narrative that YouTube and Spotify want.
Yeah. Well, yeah, exactly. They want people to upload directly to them, right?
Mhm.
And so does X,
Yep.
and probably
Yep.
BlueSky is gonna do the same thing.
Mhm.
BlueSky's not gonna take on what Dave Weiner
But
is
are they your
doing.
friends? Are they your friends? No. These platforms are for the average creator, for the
Mm-mm.
top folks, oh, they kiss their butts.
But
They get right in there and sniff close because their whole livelihood depends on that relationship where the
yeah,
high majority of creators
right, right.
get nothing. You get nothing. What is that? There was used to be, was it Hogan's Heroes? There was a famous audio. You get nothing.
Right.
So
Yeah, our content's all being used for for profit on the platforms, and what their revenue comes from is your content, and
and you get nothing.
your user profile, and so that stuff's being sold.
So at
And
what point do creators wake up and understand this?
what
Or
yeah.
will they? Or do
The
they
question,
care?
Todd, is what do you do about it?
Well,
That's
I
the
think
that's the question.
the hope and dream is, oh, I'm going to be Joe Rogan. So I'm going to take the risk and allow my stuff to be up there.
Well,
So
Joe was an example of someone that picked one platform, right, and uploaded all of his content to that one platform. Now, granted, a
well,
year
he
ago or
grew his
so,
audience
on open
he built his
RSS.
on RSS. So let's not forget that.
That's right, and then recently, Spotify opened up the Joe Rogan podcast to being widely distributed again, and, Joe is probably bigger than he's ever been now after they did
Uh,
that.
Leland, I'm even going to laugh at this when he says, "I say we all broadcast from our own domains." Well, we do,
Right, right.
but
Well,
using an embed from YouTube.
yeah, so I mean, really, I think it's it's really similar to what we saw happen with the presidential election, right? It's time for the citizens to stand up, right, and take control.
But the average Joe, you and I are just two old dudes, Rob.
I know,
You know, so the average 18-year-old doesn't give two hoots until they do. And this is the thing that's funny to me, is I
right.
get more people that end up coming to us and saying, "Oh, wow, we've been missing out." So those are the people I love to help.
So, Todd, when's the revolution coming? I made a comment on I think it was on LinkedIn or Facebook in a thread one time that was saying, well, eventually, after podcasting becomes over commercialized and has high ad loads, as that's the direction it seems to be heading, when do we invent the new podcasting that is the revolutionary that conquers the old podcasting?
Well, it's very simple. It's when listeners leave
Yeah.
those
And
shows,
and where would they
and
go?
and and they go to shows that have similar content that don't have the high ad load.
Yeah.
So it self equalizes over time,
But
potentially.
if the algorithms of these platforms, only play up the shows that have
Therein,
the full
therein,
monetization approach,
well,
right?
therein, and AI is going to destroy discovery even worse. It's already happening. So
Yeah, because you can't well, I mean, I guess you can. I mean, it'd be interesting to do a query into Chat GPT, and I think I've seen this too, where it is sharing source links now,
right,
that
but
that
it's
that
it's
take
it's picking
things
winners
to the
and
web.
losers worse than Google picks winners and losers. You
Right.
might be number 20 in the search engine, but at least you're number 20 in the search engine. In AI, you're nothing if you're not there.
Right. It's a single result. Though I
Right.
have seen in Chat GPT here recently. I don't know, Todd, if you've played this game with it where you'll ask it a question, right?
Mhm.
And about maybe a controversy in the world or something like that. And it'll give you an answer, right? And then you look at the answer and you go, yeah, that kind of doesn't make any sense, right? Maybe it seems like it's a talking
But
point
but
from
if you try to
from
correct it and it corrects itself based upon your input, it doesn't translate to me if I
no,
do the same query.
no, I'm not saying that I'm training the AI or something like that,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
if I challenge it, if I probe its questions and say, well, that's not what you said there isn't really true based on this and this and this piece of information, I have noticed that it will come back with a completely different set of data points,
It's a
right?
large language model.
So if you and
It's not AI yet.
yeah, and if you do that enough times where you question the results that it had and you challenge it, it will back down and say, "You're right. That is going on, and these are the reasons why that's going on." So you have to dig a little deeper, is what I'm trying to say, to really get the truth out of these AI platforms.
Meanwhile,
Meanwhile,
December 12th,
yeah, right.
December 12th, Chartable goes away.
Yep.
And if you haven't removed the Chartable redirect by December 12th, your show will not be deliverable.
Yeah.
It will just cease. We've been putting warnings up to our podcasters, telling them to remove the Chartable link. And push comes to shove, we will probably put a fix out a few days ahead of time and force the removal. It's not as easy to do with PowerPress as it is with the Blueberry platform, but there's about 40,000 shows out there that are running a Chartable redirect that are going to be calling their podcast hosting provider and saying, "Why isn't my show being delivered?"
Yeah, it's almost 32,000 shows that are
32,000 is the number.
that
Some
are
of those are probably dead shows that there's no one alive at the wheel anymore.
Mhm. Mhm. And I thought it was hysterical that a show called Hysterical from Wondery and Pineapple Street Studios was named the Apple Podcast of 2024. So, right, a little play on words there, but
Mhm.
it's a
I haven't
podcast
listened.
about mass hysteria throughout history.
Well, it's probably a good topic because we have lots of mass hysteria going on in the world today.
Well, it does say something about where we are, right?
Yeah.
That top,
It's a
podcast of the year, right? Yeah.
little bit of a twist there, wasn't it?
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
I thought it was interesting. Yeah.
Well, it's I'm surprised they only announced one show as the podcast of the year, but maybe that's what they've done before. I thought they came up with a list before, but maybe not.
They usually have different categories, right?
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
it also came out here today that, speaking of monetization, that a new thought paper focused on audio investment gap. So
Mhm.
this is where advertisers invest in audio and things like that. That there's a big difference between audio consumption in the U.S. Of all ad-supported media consumption is about 24%. And then the share of marketing spend it gets is around 8.4%. So it's not proportional, right, to what the prominence of audio is, and for some reason it's getting shortchanged on the investment side, right?
Hmm.
And I guess that probes a bigger question and may be a little bit of the explanation why we haven't seen the revenue numbers grow as fast as what's been expected or wanted, might be a better way of explaining it. And then also, TuneIn came up in
Oh.
discussion,
Oh.
which is a little bit of a sore spot for my my experience in the medium over all these years is that TuneIn has always been a hesitant participant in the podcasting medium for many years now, and I guess they announced, I guess last February, that the company was temporarily stopping the ability to submit new podcasts. So this was about a year ago, or probably 10 months ago, that they announced that, and now it's December, and the company still says we cannot update any podcast on our platform. So a year later, they can't update anything due to us conducting some construction to our podcast updating form. So it's taken them a year to update their podcasting update form. You can't tell me that there's a lot of will to support podcasting here. I don't know why they just don't kill it, right? If they're going to do this, it essentially is what they're doing.
Well, maybe it's time to start removing them from a distribution list.
Yeah, I think that's a reasonable statement.
Yeah, because we have them as a destination, and if it's one that is broken, we'll just suppress it. We'll just remove it and take their traffic away.
Yeah, and I think one other topic on the whole TuneIn side is that there's been hosting platforms that have tried to integrate with them to create what we have, like say with Spotify or Apple or whatever. And back when I was with Libsyn, we had it all built on the Libsyn side, but the problem is that the TuneIn folks never executed on it, and so
Sounds like what we did with Riverside, that they never executed on their part.
Yep. So it created this kind of kind of like stagnant type of environment for that platform. And what's also ironic about this is that if you know TuneIn at all, they are a platform that helps you localize the source of your content, right? So it's been catering to streaming radio stations primarily over the years, and it started to embrace podcasting. And I know that there's been a renewed interest in creating local podcasts, right? And it was always one of those shining lights in my thought process that TuneIn could be that local podcast discovery platform and drive a lot of attention to local podcasts, ones that are done to support a local community, because its whole process works that way.
Well, I think it's just a simple solution. Again, the podcast hosts, if they haven't fixed it in a year, then you remove them, pull the plug on them.
Yeah, I'm not sure that it's really doing anything anyway to have any kind of reference to them in your hosting platform right now.
By the way, for those of you that are watching the show, you can go over and get subscribed to the New Media Show. There's a little QR code. We see one of you took action on that, so thanks for subscribing to the podcast.
Yeah.
If you haven't followed or subscribed already.
Yep.
Yeah, and I don't know. It's sad. You would think that they would want to have more content, but maybe they don't.
Oh, and Todd, I don't know that we talked about it on a past show, but Samsung also pulled the plug on their podcast platform.
Yeah, they did. Yeah. That was kind of a, be honest with you, that whole integration. Oh my God. And I remember all the, we went through a lot of pain with them.
Total disaster zone is what that was. Yeah, I did that deal too. And yeah, it just never made sense to me. The whole naming of it, the whole architecture of it, and what information that they wanted from the podcaster just didn't make any sense. So, all right. But anyway, so we're seeing kind of the dust is settling on the podcast medium, and we're kind of,
dust is settling. Does that sound like you sound like we're going extinct?
No. I think that the fluff, all of the stuff that's been going on over the last 5 years is kind of settling out, right? We're kind of weeding out the bad apples, right? And maybe you can look at it from that perspective. Hopefully that's what happens, is that we come back stronger and more focused in the platforms that are good at being podcasting. And these kind of also rans, ones that got involved in the medium that really weren't serious about it, are kind of going to go away, and maybe that's a good thing. They weren't driving any listenership anyway, so why have them around to clutter the space and to make it more complicated for podcasters to do something, right? So, and did you see this data chart that was off of Sounds Profitable that came out of Spreaker? I know it's on
No.
our outline. The revenue per 1,000 downloads that they're tracking in there. This is one that I pulled out of Sounds Profitable just from a day or so ago.
What does that mean? Revenue per mile download?
Per milli,
Per mil.
which is
Revenue
another
per
term
million.
for for per 1,000. So that's
Okay.
that's the reference that's the same as CPM.
Okay.
And so what they're saying here is that they're seeing revenue of $95 per 1,000 downloads.
For advertisers?
Yeah, for advertising. Yeah. And I think the reason that we're seeing this is because of programmatic advertising. People are loading up on ads, right? So
Wait a
back up
minute.
and think
So
about it.
is it listener? I mean, podcaster revenue per 1,000, or is it advertiser revenue per 1,000?
It's actually how much per 1,000 listeners, how much that download generates in revenue, right?
For the podcaster.
Yes. So if you think about it from an ad load perspective, right? So
Yeah.
let's say you have 8 ads,
Yep.
and each one of those ads brings in $15 each, right?
Mhm.
Or something like that. That's where you get up there. So that 95-41 number, which sounds great to a podcaster, but is actually a reflection of very high ad load too. So
I know what programmatic has been delivering, and that's an incredible number.
yeah.
That's programmatic does not deliver the same CPMs as
No, but if you add them all up, I mean, if you have like 10 ads that
Oh.
run in a piece of content, right?
Is
Take
anybody
that.
running a 10 ad load
I think that's happening on the
on
Spreaker platform.
Spreaker?
Yeah.
That's insane.
Yeah, so what we're starting to see is this shift towards radio monetization models moving into podcasting. Because I mean, if you think about broadcast radio, they've had as much as like 16 minutes of ads per hour.
Right.
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 So to think that maybe an hour long podcast has 10 minutes, that's a reduction. If you look at from a radio perspective, that's less ads. So
That's just insane, though. If you think about the ad load to get, and if it's all based on programmatic and not host read, even host read, that's like a 4. That's like 4 host reads.
well, that's not even counting host reads. So if you have a podcast
So they're
or
saying that is
or
purely
maybe it is
programmatic.
including host reads. I don't know. It doesn't say in
Did
here.
they define it?
No, they didn't. Well,
No.
there's a link there that says learn more, but that's probably a sign up thing. So this was actually an ad, I think, in a lot of ways.
Oh.
So I
You know,
mean,
but
this
I
could
can-
include an average of host read revenue in addition to the programmatic.
Rob, I can manipulate numbers 7 ways to Sunday here.
I know.
So,
I know.
what is the context? That's the key there. Is did they just take a sampling of 10 shows and
That's
the
probably across
highest?
their whole platform, probably. I don't know.
Yeah.
I-
I don't hear podcasters that are over there making $95 per 1,000.
Well, that's what they're promoting.
Oh,
So
and if okay, let's say they are. That's a great number.
it is a great
But
number.
at what cost?
Yeah, let's say you have a podcast that's getting 4,000 downloads, right? You're
Yeah.
basically getting $400, almost $400 per episode.
Yeah.
Yeah.
At a $95 CPM, damn. I might be able to retire after a year with my tech show.
But Todd, then you're gonna have to run like 8 or 10 ads in your show. I
Right,
don't know if
right,
you're
right. And then the audience
gonna
will
wanna
go
do that, right?
the audience will go into the basement. So it was, which is interesting. I had my biggest GoDaddy month in probably 3 years last month.
Wow,
My my November numbers
congratulations.
were,
That's great.
and it, I've been looking because it didn't come from entirely from the audience. And
Yeah.
so I've been looking at but boy, whoever was using the codes, I'm like, Yahoo, Merry Christmas for me,
Yeah,
thank you
right.
so very much. I could use 4 or 5 of those months in a row. I
Yeah,
might be able to afford the $90 a month that,
right.
that CloudWaza was charging me for restreaming just doing the live video portion of the show.
Christmas is gonna be good to you this year, right? Yeah.
Yeah, well, yeah,
Yeah,
well, the tax man will take 36% of it, so,
yeah, did you also see the chart that was put up into Sounds Profitable newsletter too? The chart was basically charting the significance of the audio primes, which Tom has said, are the heavy users of audio, right? It says, "How did you discover your favorite podcast? Select all." And this came up, with, YouTube at 48%, Todd, and Facebook 14%, and Spotify 14%.
but I also think Tom contends that, there is a very narrow window of shows at the top that are acquiring most of the consumption.
Yeah,
So
exactly.
again,
He doesn't say across how many shows or anything like that,
yeah, yeah. Yeah,
but
again, it's
yeah.
the previous, results I've shown is a very narrow number of shows that are, getting the majority of the listens over there, so or watches or whatever the hell it is.
And I think this is just a sign of what I was saying earlier around just the boatloads of charts and research that's coming out, and YouTube is at the top of the list every time. And so
Thanks, Leland, for listening
people are
or
going to get
watching.
this impression that video is the cat's meow, right? And it's meowing loudly. So
Yeah, I think challenge with the skip forward, Lucas, on those heavy ad loads is annoyance level.
yeah,
Um, because yeah, I think it's the annoyance level. That's what's drove me away from some shows is the annoyance level. The
mhm.
annoyance level of the ad load. Because I was trying to listen to some shows that I was just trying to get a feel for, and I just couldn't handle it. It was like radio. Every 6 or 7 minutes, bam, there was another ad spot. And I thought, "Is this ever gonna end?"
Yeah, and that's the real tension in the medium right now is that increasingly creators are wanting that kind of a revenue model right out of the gate, Todd. I mean, so let's say you're creating a new show that is able to garner, 1,000 downloads, which is still pretty low on the scale size, right? And they're making $100 every episode. That's what people want, right? People want that, and so they're going to gravitate towards platforms that give them that, and that's what Spreaker is catering to.
Well, it just makes me wonder, um, are people so conditioned now? Yeah, I don't know. I'd love to hear some listener studies from podcasts that have that kind of load.
Yeah,
Obviously, they've still got enough of those numbers, but I just wonder what type of a hit.
I don't know.
Yeah,
I'm not sure
I've
how to
sat.
quantify that either. Really.
Well, I saw it in my own stats years ago
Yeah.
and knew that my limit on my show was 2. Of course,
Yeah.
those were 2 host endorsed ads, and
Yeah.
I would hit 3, and then people were punching out. I actually
These
lost.
are these are like 30-second, like a Geico ad or something like that,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
or a
Real effect.
pre-produced ad, like a radio ad. Yeah.
I don't know. 10 in an hour, 10 in an hour show. Boy,
Yeah. That may be where we're at. And with the expectation of creators now that they have to make money right away. You know, here we are.
we do find, because of the ability to turn on programmatic from the beginning,
I think
we've
you
been
limit it to 2 though, don't you?
well, they can, yeah, 2. They can opt in for mid-roll now, but still 2. And matter of fact, we basically made the agreement. We basically, it's not the podcaster's choice. We told SoundStack to limit it.
Oh,
We
okay.
we imposed the limit. We didn't. Maybe at some point we'll let the podcaster send the signal on, but we basically set the limit with SoundStack is how many ads we wanted in shows. So 2 pre-rolls, one mid, 1 pre and 1. Yeah, we can do 1 pre and 1 mid. So that was how we kind of structured it, and it's not a setting. The podcaster can't dial it up, which, we're limiting our own revenue, but we also understood it. Maybe maybe I should let them just rock and roll. Maybe I should let them run 10,
See what
but I'm
happens.
not
Yeah.
chasing. Yeah, I don't know. That was a
If you up it
decision we
to
made.
like 4 or 5 or something like that, that would
But the problem is then you have to have a signal to let the podcaster be able to send the signal to SoundStack to say how many they want. We'd have to go back to them and say, how do we
well, don't
tell
they
you the
have
show?
to yeah, so don't they have to get in there and actually set an ad placement in the audio?
They do. They do if they want the mid-roll.
Mhm.
Yeah. And we've got that tool so they can do that, no
Yep.
problem.
That's a gate limiter right there to some degree.
Yeah. To some shows won't do it.
Yeah.
So, which is okay. But for our folks that are running DAI,
Yeah.
they can easily switch between programmatic and DAI, and their markers are there and already built into the system. David on YouTube says it takes time to make money. I've started to tell people interested in podcasting to try to get a partnership before launching if they can. But the problem is that's very
It's a
few
little bit of a
people.
long shot. Yeah.
Yeah. Because who wants, we're approached every week. I probably get 20 pitches by podcasters that say, hey, we want to fund our first 7 episodes or something to that effect. And why we're not in the content gambling game. So no, we never do a partnership, especially if it's okay. So when we do partnerships, it's with someone that's a good cause, someone that is doing something for, there's some reason, and it's usually I don't know what the word I want to use, philanthropic. It's basically
Yeah.
where we don't, we basically say we give you a free account, give you some promotion because you're doing something for cancer awareness or something like that. So we don't advertise those partnerships because we just do it because it's giving back.
Right.
We don't expect and we don't make requirements that they have to announce that we're underwriting or anything like that. So I think that's the best way to do that because I don't need to profit off this. Again, if you're doing cancer awareness or cancer raising money for, I don't need to profit off someone's misery. So
Yeah.
it's just not a good way of doing business. Lucas says, what about premium content? Notice we have Podimo, paid content like Netflix for podcast. There's premium here.
Yeah.
People are doing premium content
Subscription based
with
content.
Apple Podcast, and Blueberry has a premium offering as well. And some people do it.
Mhm.
Not as many because it's a huge commitment. If you start a premium podcast and people have paid for a year, you're committed to creating whatever content you have promised for a year.
Yeah, your
So
flexibility is more limited, but it's the same thing if you get involved in, paid ads, paid host reads too. You commit to a schedule and you have to follow through on it. where the programmatic side comes in and it just runs ads when you produce content. There's no like strict schedule you have to stick to based on a contract.
Right. Right. I've been sitting here pushing a button, Rob, to quit my have my fan from going up and down,
Oh,
and
really?
I've been stupid. I've been pushing the fan button, not the swing button. So I'm like, why is that stupid thing stopping moving?
I need it. Yeah.
Yeah, that's why I've been looking up. I'm like, what's wrong with this thing? And to me at this point, we've seen an uptick since the election in new customers coming in, which is good. I started to freak out July, August, September. The numbers were pretty bad
Yeah.
in the number of new shows, and now I'm basically looking at new shows that are coming into the platform, and our core customer audience is re-engaging. So it's interesting. Our core categories, people are now spending money. So that was reassuring. But boy, starting in July, basically running up to the election, the last 3 months,
Yeah.
the numbers, I'm like, holy crap, what's going on?
Yeah.
And I know you had something here in the commentary about the total podcast.
Yeah. The active podcasts over the
Yeah.
last 30 days or so.
Yeah, if we look at the last 30 days right now on Podcast Index, about 347,000 shows have updated.
Mhm.
And we haven't been watching this number very close, but 3-day average is 114, 10-day average 236, 30-day 347, 60-day 422. The 60-day number is still probably down the most, along with the 90-day number.
Yeah.
But
Yeah. And it does look like in the chart that's off of the podcastbusinessjournal.com website, if you want to go there and look at a data
I think they
spread
got
on-
these from Podcast Index, is what it looks like. But go
probably.
ahead.
Right. Is that it shows that there was a dip in active podcasts. Just prior to
Well, right around Thanksgiving.
it was around which makes sense, right? That would
Yeah.
happen. But it's upticking again, back up. But it basically has been flatlined since November 5th. So, right, which was the day of the election.
5,000 sat boost from Papa HD. Hi, Todd. Hi, Rob. Greetings from Montreal. The frontier between audio and video and podcasting is more and more blurred here, too. Yeah, it's happening everywhere.
Yeah, so I don't know how it sorts out in the end, Todd. So if you want to wrap up the episode just from the standpoint of, what's the best go-to kind of mental approach to this around what we're seeing happen, and how do we as creators adjust to that and
Do you?
make the right choice?
Do you? Do what you want to do.
I agree with that. Yeah.
Do you? You want to do video only? Knock yourself out.
Right. And you just might do that.
And if you
Yeah.
want I think a combo strategy is great for those that want to do a combo strategy. But my opinion is you should have 2 listings on Spotify. You should not sacrifice your audio podcast for video.
Yeah, Todd,
Right.
I'm torn. I feel like I need to get over there and actually use the Spotify platform so I can be definitely
Well-
deeper knowledge about it, and
Well,
how
again,
it actually works.
you just keep in mind that, go ahead and check it out. But again, I think the better idea is to create 2 shows over there, in my opinion. But, what am I to know?
Well, my audio side of the podcasts that I am producing are in Spotify right now. It's just I don't have any video in there. So what I've been conflicted about is how do I proceed on getting
Well,
video.
they make you move to their platform to be able to do video on your show.
But move the
can't-
audio or just
Yeah,
move the
yeah.
video?
If you want to have one listing, you have to host everything over there.
Okay, I can't just upload the video and have a separate listing
No.
from my audio
Well, you
feed?
could have a separate show, absolutely.
Okay.
At
Well,
least I think so.
that would be the approach. My concern is all the news came out about them taking the video and splitting out the video from the audio and
Well, they
creating
do. They do
creating
if you're
a
if you're
second audio version of the show.
if you are a Spotify for podcaster and you're publishing audio and you have added video to that show,
On a direct load relationship with Spotify.
then they take the video first and audio basically disappears.
The audio.
It's a video first strategy for them.
I thought that they were splitting the audio from the video out and creating a separate audio
maybe.
experience.
No, that they disregard your audio.
Doesn't make any sense in the context
Okay,
of what
so
I'm
you
saying.
have to have you have to upload if you have a show over there and you're
Right.
uploading audio and you want to add video to that show.
No, but I'm already in there via my RSS feed through my hosting platform.
Okay, but you can't put video on your RSS feed.
Yeah, that's not what I'm asking. What I'm asking, if I upload a video on a separate Spotify account.
Oh, a separate Spotify account.
Right.
Yeah,
If I upload video to them, will they generate a audio version of the show and host a video version of the show when I do that?
I don't know. That I don't know.
Because I don't necessarily want to have two audio versions available in Spotify.
Yeah, that I don't know. But they'll ignore the audio anyway if you put video up there. That's my understanding.
They will. Okay.
Someone's on Spotify can tell us. We're getting an email from somebody.
I just need to go over there and publish a couple of episodes and see how it works and see what the interface
Please name
looks
the shows that this is the stupidest shit ever or something like that.
Yeah, there we go. That's the approach right there. Yes. Create some episode trashing Spotify, right?
Yeah. And meanwhile, we've got some other things going on. We're trying to figure out what's going on with Spotify, and they're being very, 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 very slow to respond to our support team. Very, very, very slow.
What does that tell you, Todd?
Exactly what I'm thinking.
Okay. Yeah. That's the part that worries me about what's happening. So, yeah.
Yes, indeed. And I'll leave it at that. So, everyone, thanks for being here. Yes, we made it 90 minutes. And I'm running about 3 hours of sleep. We went through our one of our IEB audit things last night.
Oh, you did?
So that went well. We're right up against the line here. And we've got one more audit for a redirect and some action items and then fraud prevention stuff. So the audit's a little more detailed than it has been in the past. So we're gonna hopefully we get underneath the deadline. Well, we're in process, so whenever it's announced, or whenever we get through. So with some loss of team members, we've been a little bit longer getting through this because I had to get a couple of devs educated on the platform. So anyway, it is what it is. Okay, so Rob, how'd they get hold of you?
Well, I'm on all the social platforms. Good or bad, depending on your viewpoint. I'm at robgreenlee.com. I have an X account at Rob Greenlee. I'm not yet on BlueSky, and I'm not yet on the other side's social media platform either. So I'm kind of sticking with X for now because I think it's the most diverse platform, the biggest at scale, and so. Anyway, or you can get me on YouTube. I have my own channel over there at Rob Greenlee. And you can send me an email if you want to, rob.greenlee@gmail.com. We'd love to hear from you, get some feedback. And I'm feverishly working on the Podcast Hall of Fame, which will be at Podfest coming up here in January, on January 17th. We're going to have a ceremony there to induct 11 new people, Todd. So I actually upped it one, Todd, from
Yeah,
the
I
10.
saw that. I saw the slate.
Yeah, and the voting came up where I needed to add one more in order to make it fair. So that's what I've done.
Yeah,
So
because you had a tie, right?
I did a 4-way tie. Yep.
Oh, a 4-way tie.
In one of the categories was a 4-way tie. Yeah. Yeah.
Wow.
So I couldn't just
It's
leave
a
one of those out.
yeah. So that was smart to go to 11. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, good.
Yeah, so we're
Tell
getting
us-
more people in. I don't know what you thought about the slate. I'm hoping to announce all the names here probably by Monday is the goal. And
What it was interesting. One of the names I said, "Who?"
yeah,
And then I did a search. So I'm like, "Oh yeah, I know who that
yeah,
is. I just didn't know the name. I knew
yeah,
the show, but I didn't know the name." I was like, "Who the hell is that?"
yeah. I actually spoke to that person earlier today, and they're going to be there. Actually, it looks like probably 10 out of the 11 will actually be there in person. What it looks like.
Wow.
Yeah. So now I'm in the
Hmm.
process of trying to get people to do the inductions. So,
Oh.
to get up and give that 2-minute kinda speech
Yeah.
to before they come up on stage.
Well,
But
if we
I
can
was
have
shocked to see how many people were like, "Yeah, I'll be there." So, yeah.
Yeah, if we can have a 10 of the 11 there at least, that's incredible.
And it's possible that well, I think one of them is definitely not gonna be there, but the other 10 are pretty much on board. So, right.
Well, good. I knew you were having trouble getting a hold of we're being real cryptic here. I knew
Well,
you were having
yeah.
trouble getting a hold of one of them, but,
Yeah,
is
and
the
I
one
got a
that you
hold of him today. Right.
and so is that individual thrilled?
Yeah, he's happy about it. Yeah. Actually,
Yeah,
everybody's happy
well
about it. Everybody's happy about it. It's always
yeah,
a
it looks like a good slate. There's a couple people I wasn't familiar with, but,
right.
yeah, that's the nature of the game, which is actually good.
I thought it was good too. I thought it was a really, really good slate of new inductees. And if I look at the 5 on each category down from the ones that got selected,
Mhm.
those are all terrific candidates too. So next year we may have those folks get more votes because they won't be on those other ones won't be on the
Yeah, they
ballot anymore.
won't be on the stack.
And those are a terrific slate of folks too. So hopefully, that'll be a good
So
event too.
next week, Tuesday, or when are you gonna announce?
Hopefully Monday, but it might push out to Tuesday. It just depends on how things go. But that's what I'm targeting is Monday.
All right. Okay. And the whole committee has seen the list, I'm assuming?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I haven't put it out to everyone yet, but I would say that most have seen it at this point. Yeah.
All right, awesome. Okay, everyone, Todd at blueberry.com, at Geek News on X, at Geek News, at geeknews.chat on Mastodon. And I'm sure you have comments about today's show. We'd love to hear from you. And of course, if you haven't followed or subscribed to the podcast yet, go over to newmediashow.com. And we're at NMS Podcast on X if you want to follow us on X. Rob takes care of the majority of the posts on that. But thanks for being here. And looks like my audio stayed connected the entire
Yeah. It was good. Todd. Yeah.
episode. So that's good. Everybody, see you next time.